Everybody, this is going to be one crazy show because I got to be honest with you. After what's been happening in Danbury, I mean, we had a storm last Tuesday night, and I still have no internet, and I still have no cable TV, so I'm in the dark. I was able to get a few clips that we're going to play tonight, but guys, you know, on this show we always talk about global warming. And, you know, global warming has been one of my forte. It's really what brought me to the table. Because you can't fool Mother Nature. And you have to be, we have to be honest with each other. You know, what we're doing to the atmosphere and what we're doing to the planet by putting carbon in the air is the reason why we're calling this show Extreme Weather. And guys, this is show 218. It's extreme weather. Today's date is 5/21. And guys, we want to talk about the amount of damage because we had a 500-year storm in Danbury. And guys, so far this year, I heard that we've had 8 500-year storms. And you say to yourself, how could this be possible? Well, maybe President Trump knows why the globe is warming and the climate is changing. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth. And Judy, we're going to play clip 02, and we might have to play it twice. All right, so clip 2, Judy.
But global warming, do you notice they change the name? We go global warming, they go climate change, they go now it's sort of, I hear a lot of extreme weather. How can you miss with extreme weather, right? If it's cold, it's okay. If it's hot, it's okay. If it's windy, if it's hot, if you have to, everything's
it's a short clip.
So now they use extreme weather. It is a disgrace what's going on.
Judy, can you play that again?
But global warming, do you notice they change the name? We go global warming, they go climate change, they go now it's sort of, I hear a lot of extreme weather. How can you miss with extreme weather, right? If it's cold, it's okay. If it's hot, it's okay. If it's windy, if it's hot, if you have to, everything's extreme. So now they use extreme weather. It is a disgrace what's going on.
Now, guys, it's quite obvious Trump doesn't know his ass from a hole in a wall. But more importantly, he represents a conservative party. And if there's one thing that drives me crazy, it's how hypocritical conservatives are. Because I always ask the question, why aren't conservatives concerned about conserving the planet? I mean, it's pretty simple, isn't it? What does your party stand for? You're the conservative party, but yet you don't want to conserve the planet. Why? Where is the logic? What thought process goes into this? Obviously none, because Trump doesn't have a thought process. He responds to the last thing he's heard. And guys, I tell you, what happened in Danbury, I mean, to go through what we're going through, and guys, I'm going to be honest with you, the guys that have worked on the polls, on the power, on everything, they've been great. They've been out here, you know, I don't know how many hours they're working a day, but I mean, these guys really stepped up, and I tell you, they're really trying their best. But guys, we're just faced with a problem that's just, it's dramatic, it's gigantic. It's extreme weather. And why is it happening? Guys, if you follow the show, you'd know one of the reasons is the Classius-Clay-Perron equation. And what that is quite simply is, when the globe starts to warm up, for each degree Celsius that the globe warms up, the air will hold 3% more water vapor. That's right. And water vapor itself is another greenhouse gas. So guys, you could start to see everything starts to compound itself. And we start to have, and Trump was smart enough to be able to use the term extreme weather, because that's what we're having, guys. You know, and we did a show on Houston. We did a couple of towns in Texas that were flooded. We did the Superstorm Sandy. But guys, you know, the one thing that you can never trick Mother Nature. And the other thing that you can trick is physics. That's right. Physics, you can't, there's no way that you can trick physics. And we're going to play you a clip from Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. One of the claims that was said to be most unlikely to happen. And guys, when you see what happened, you're going to go, you know, Uncle Rich, you're right. It's physics. So, Judy, let's have clip number 3, please.
10 years ago, when the movie An Inconvenient Truth came out, the single most criticized scene in that movie was an animated scene showing that the combination of sea level rise and storm surge would put the ocean water into the 9/11 memorial site, which was then under construction. And people said, that's ridiculous. What a terrible exaggeration.
Look what happened, guys.
There is a wake-up call here, and that is climate change and our vulnerability to it. It was true 10 years ago, it was true 5 years ago, it is undeniable today.
Guys, it's undeniable. You can't fool Mother Nature. And physics is physics. You know, when the water levels get to a certain height, that's it. You know, it's going to flood. And he said it would, and it did. And then what'll happen? You know, guys, I went up to see our sound man and our buddy Kurt that does the signs for us, and he helps with a lot of the show. He helps write a lot of the stuff on the show. I couldn't get through to him. So I drove up to visit him. And guys, I want to tell you, his neighborhood, Candlewood Knolls, was devastated. And he had 2 beautiful pine trees in front of his house that don't exist anymore. And guys, he had a bunch of guys, and they turned out to be volunteer firemen, and they were from Warren, Connecticut. And they were what's called a strike team. And they came down, and you know, one town backs up the next town. And I couldn't believe, and the guy said the priority was first to get the roads open so that they could get, you know, vehicles through. But second, the most important thing was to get the roads open enough so that the emergency vehicles can get through. And one of the guys from Eversource said, listen, when we fire up the grid, something always goes wrong. And guys, I got to be honest with you. There was a section up by me off of Nabby Road, which is right by Neimer's Market, which is by the boat launch. They had to replace all the poles in that little section. And I virtually watched most of it be, you know, well, I kept going by, and you would see how they were progressing. And one day, they had an ambulance out there. And I'm saying, man, I hope this guy didn't come down here to help us and he gets hurt. And I tell you, when you're fooling around with this stuff, I mean, to see the devastation that, you know, that we're going through. And guys, I probably won't have cable for a couple of more days, but you know what? I mean, even though I'm going through a cultural shock, I mean, I think I can live with it, you know? But the one thing I want everybody to try to understand is, guys, this is going to be the new norm. This is what's going to be happening. You know, we put the carbon in the air. We've already made our bed. Now we're going to have to deal with it. And this is one of the problems. And guys, I don't know what this is going to cost. I think I heard the early estimate was $2 billion. I don't know. But who's going to pay for this? Are the Koch brothers going to pay for it? Is the fossil fuel companies going to pay for it? No. So who's going to pay for it? You and I. Our insurance premiums are going to go up. The insurance companies are going to have to compensate their clients. And guess what? We're all going to end up paying for it. It's really simple. And why? So that Koch brothers and the 1% can make more money by burning fossil fuels and putting more carbon in the air. And tonight, we're going to make it a point to show scientists and the idea of just precisely how the globe is warming. So the next clip we're going to show you is Bill Nye. And Bill Nye addresses Mark Morano. And guys, Mark Morano is a guy that makes a living as a denier. And we're going to play this clip now. And actually, this is going to be the one with Joe Bastardi. And Bill Nye puts his money where his mouth is, and he challenges him. He challenges him to an out-and-out bet. Put your money where your mouth is. And guys, let's see what happens. So Judy, clip 4, please.
In an unusual publication called The Patriot Post, a bodybuilder and meteorologist named Joe Bastardi challenged me. He challenged me to show a connection between carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the world's temperature, and he challenged me to make a forecast, a prediction. Well, Mr. Bastardi, you're a meteorologist, a weatherman, so let's do this weatherman style. In his article,
Jody, can you make
Mr.
sure
Bastardi presents this graph.
Up?
It shows the world's temperature and the world's carbon dioxide over the last 4.5 billion years. These curves have to be based on computer models. The world's continents were not where they are today. There were no living things producing oxygen, and the sun's brightness was different than it is now. But if we look over here, we have real data, and you can see that the world is getting warmer. These 5 curves were produced by 5 independent organizations, and they all got the same answer. Now, in his article, Mr. Bastardi presented a second graph, which started over here around 2005, 2006, when there was an El Nino. So if you start when it's warm, of course it's going to go down a little bit at first. I'm not sure why you would choose to present the graph this way. I can't help but think about Upton Sinclair, who said, "It's hard to get a man to believe something when his salary depends on his not believing it." Now, Mr. Bastardi, I cannot help but note that you've spoken at the Coal Trading Conference, Nebraska Propane, and the Gas Forum. Now, where you speak is your business, but it also seems to be your business telling your audiences what they want to hear. But all this aside, let's talk about the forecast, my prediction. So, Mr. Bastardi, I will bet you $10,000. I predict that the year 2016 will be among the top 10 hottest years ever recorded. This check could be yours if you take the bet and it turns out not to be among the top 10 hottest years. But if it does, and you take the bet, you would owe me $10,000. Wait, I'll take it up a notch. I'll bet you another $10,000 that the decade 2010 to 2020 will prove to be the hottest decade ever recorded. So that's 2 bets of $10,000 that you could win if you believe that the world is for some reason getting cooler instead of hotter. So come on, champ. Show us how tough you are.
Guys, the science is settled. It's certain. The globe is getting warmer. It's that simple. I mean, you can't, you can deny it, but why? Why not just be honest? Call a spade a spade. Let's face the problem. Let's deal with it. What else are we going to do? You're going to continue to tell your kids that the globe isn't warming? And the next clip, guys, unfortunately, I couldn't get it up. I mean, I tried so hard to get some good stuff for the show. And guys, you know, without having the internet, and with, you know, I'm kind of limited in my ability, so this really made it tough. So the next clip that we wanted to show you was Bill Nye with Mark Morano. And he simply said to him at the end, he said, Mr. Morano, what are you going to tell your children when they ask you, Daddy, what did you do when, you know, about global warming? You know, Daddy, what did you do? And what's his answer going to be? Kids, I denied it. And I went out of my way to try to prove that it wasn't happening and it wasn't real. And I got paid handsomely to do it, and that's why I did it. And if he could be man enough, and if he could own up, and if he could say, hey, this is the way I make my living, by tricking the simple folk like Uncle Joey and all the people on Facebook, and guys, I tell you, you know, even though we had extreme weather and things got very bad, some good things happened. Number one, the price of firewood is never going to be cheaper. And number two, I got to meet a lot of my neighbors that I would never have met if it wasn't for a storm like this. And when I was at Kurt's house, I met one of his neighbors who told me he was a conservative Republican. And guys, I asked him, I said, if you wanted to find out if the globe was warming or not, where would you go? And guys, he wouldn't answer me. He asked me, he goes, well, Rich, you seem to know so much about this. Where would you go to find out? And I said, the first place I'd go is the National Science Foundation. And I'd go I'd go to NASA, and I'd go to NOAA, and I'd go to credible sources, and I'd ask them. And they would tell me. And guys, you know, they talked about, he talked about a global cooling chart. This is what I always tell my Facebook friends. If the globe isn't getting any warmer, then post a chart that shows that the globe is getting cooler. Guys, there aren't any. And that's the problem. But what they'll do is, because they're conservatives, and guys, I had the opportunity, because I had no electricity, no cable, no internet, I actually listened to conservative radio. I listened to WLAD from Danbury, and guys, I took some notes. And just to have some fun, let's take a look at what WLAD, Dave Vernelli, had to say. Now, this was on Thursday at 7:30 in the morning on WLAD, which can be heard in all of Danbury. What did they talk about? A black dude wearing a MAGA, Make America Great Again hat, okay? Then at 7:42, Dave Vernelli talked about the Mueller investigation. And he said it's their 1-year anniversary, and they've got nothing, nada, zilch. They haven't come up with anything. And he's telling this to all the simple folk in Danbury. And guys, what he misled them, because there's been 7 guilty pleas, 13 indictments, but Dave Vernelli just failed to mention that. Isn't that funny? So the people that listen to WLAD are going to be as stupid as Dave Vernelli is. And you're going to say, Rich, you can't call your neighbors and friends stupid. I certainly can. When you listen to the nonsense that Dave Vernelli preaches, and guys, every time I call him up, he hangs up like a little pussy, like a little whiny wimp. He's not man enough to speak his piece. Why? Because he knows. He knows he's full of crap. He knows he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And, you know, he just went on, California is revolting with the sanctuary cities, and they're releasing murderers and rapists. And the governor for Georgia has a deportation bus. Yeah, Michael Williams, he put it on, YouTube blocked it, but the deportation bus is back on. And tell me that isn't racist. And then they were talking about, they never once did Dave mention global warming. Global warming does not exist. It's not in their vocabulary. But you know what is? Bears that loot. Yep, bears that break into bird feeders. This is important, guys, you know? And then, you know, they talked about the state parks and everything and the macro bird. And guys, you know, we actually had 4 tornadoes in Connecticut. We average 1 tornado in the state a year. We had 4 in one day. And somebody put up, Rich Radichowski put up on Facebook, there was a tornado. He took a picture of somebody took a picture of a funnel cloud on Candlewood Lake. Was it photoshopped? I don't know. But guys, you know, so if anybody wants to call in with anything they've seen or heard that was strictly out of the ordinary. But guys, when you start to listen to conservative radio, you start to say to yourself, how could these people be so easily duped? And I mean, it's sad. But the next clip we're going to play is from somebody that I highly respect. And this is going to be a clip from Elon Musk. And he more or less says the same thing. What are you going to tell your kids? When your kids ask you, what did you do to preserve the planet? What's your answer going to be? So, Judy, let's have clip number, I believe it's 6, please.
It's very important we take action today to recognize that we are making a very significant change to the chemical constituency of the atmosphere and the oceans, and one that is almost impossible to reverse. And I think, you know, when we look back on these days in the future, we want to be able to say that we did the actions that were right, the actions that were important, because I think it's very difficult to say, you know, if you go, say, 20, 30, 40 years in the future, you know, what do you say to your kids or your grandkids? You know, it's not as though, like, I mean, it's like the scientists all say that these bad things are going to happen. It's like 97%. So like say, well, to your grandkids or kids, like, well, did nobody tell you? No, it's like, no, everyone was telling us. Okay, so why didn't you do anything? What's the answer?
What's the answer, right? What are you going to tell your kids? Daddy, what did you do? I denied it. Can you believe this? Can you believe that there's people that will sit there and they won't even have enough respect for science to look it up? I mean, they'll listen to Rush Limbaugh and they'll take what he says? And guys, it's just amazing. He offers no facts. He offers nothing concrete. All he says is it's a hoax. And Trump must listen to him. Oh, it's a hoax. And guys, you say, extreme weather is not a hoax. When we put that much water vapor in the air, this is what happens. I mean, things flood and we have problems. But you know what? Sometimes it's best to laugh at a situation or to make fun of it when it comes to things like climate change, because sometimes people just don't get it. And it's because they don't want to get it. But we're going to have some fun because Jimmy Kimmel did a beautiful job. And at the end of the clip, the climate scientists get a little rough. But, you know, the one thing that I'm always, whenever it comes to global warming, when anybody asks me, you know, Rich, where are you going to get what are your sources? And guys, my sources are simple. My sources are climate scientists who publish, and that's so important, publish peer-reviewed studies. And this way, hey, guys, if a scientist writes something that's wrong, there is nothing that his peers want to do more than chastise him. Make them look funny. Why? It's the only way they can become successful or known. If you're a scientist or a physicist, you either gotta come up with an idea or disparage or disprove somebody else's idea. That's it. That's the only way you're going to become famous. Those two ways. So guys, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to laugh a little bit, and at the end of the clip, you're going to see some climate scientists and what they have to say. So Judy, clip number 7, please.
I want to talk about Sarah Palin. You remember her, the former governor of Alaska, the big hair? Anyway, Sarah Palin has been making the rounds lately, promoting an anti-climate change documentary, a movie called Climate Hustle. The gist is that climate change is a hoax and we shouldn't worry about it. It was shown in around 400 theaters tonight, and Sarah Palin is supporting it.
I want people to feel empowered to ask questions about what is being fed them from the science community, that something's not making a whole lot of sense when it comes to inconsistent data that is being produced and being fed, especially to our children, when it comes to global warming or climate change, whatever they're calling it today.
That was one sentence, by the way. One very long,
sounds like
very dumb sentence. And here's another one.
It's perpetuated. It's repeated so often that too many people believe that, oh, well, I guess if 97% of all scientists believe that man's activities are creating changes in the weather, who am I to question that?
Exactly. Who are you to question that? Here's the thing. I have a theory. I think maybe Sarah Palin wants global warming. It's cold in Alaska. It would be welcome up there, but the idea that she knows more than 97% of scientists do, it's offensive, it's dangerous. No matter what Sarah Palin and these geniuses she surrounds herself with try to tell you, climate change is not a liberal versus conservative thing, but the people who profit from ignoring it want you to believe it is. In general, politicians on the left believe humans are the major cause of climate change, and politicians on the right say, no, not all politicians are right, but most. And that is what's confusing to me, because unlike a lot of things, this isn't a matter of political opinion, it's a matter of scientific opinion. In this case, overwhelming scientific opinion. 2014 was the warmest year ever, until 2015 became the warmest year ever. Now 2016 might turn out to be even warmer than either of those. You know what climate change is real? When the hottest year on record is whatever year it currently is. That's how you know. We've had 15 of the last of the 16 hottest years ever since 2001. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. But for some reason, whether or not humans are contributing to this has become a left versus right issue. Our politicians debate this, but our scientists don't. A huge majority of climate scientists say climate change is happening. They say we're causing it and we need to do something about it before it has a terrible effect on all of us. There's no debate about the greenhouse effect, just like there's no debate about gravity. If someone throws a piano off the roof, I don't care what Sarah Palin tells you, get out of the way because it's coming down on your head. So, there's this a thick circle of man-made gases around the planet. It's like a snow globe holding heat in. And now, in fairness, I do want to be fair, this isn't bad news for everyone. For example, climate change is great for anyone who would like to get swallowed by the ocean. For everyone else, though, it's good for Aquaman. It's bad for us. NASA says that 97% of climate scientists agree that the warming we're experiencing is very likely due to human activity. That's NASA. It's right there on their website, climate.nasa.gov. 97% of climate scientists agree on this. And 97% of scientists don't agree on much. Even 1 out of 5 dentists don't agree on sugarless gum for their patients that chew gum. But almost half our representatives in Washington apparently know more about about science than our scientists, or they pretend to because big corporations give them a lot of money to make sure they can keep doing the destructive things that they do. And the idea that this is some kind of left-wing conspiracy is not. What if I decided to deny the existence of yogurt? Think about it. I've seen the containers. I just don't believe there's anything in them. I believe yogurt is a conspiracy created by John Stamos. That was insane. And I would be insane. But this is not that different from that. To me, the big question is either you believe in science or you don't. Why do we believe scientists when it comes to molecules and the speed of light and Cialis, but not this? Because members of Congress, who we don't even like, by the way, because people who take money from companies that make pollution for a living, told us not to worry about it. Now, and I know I'll get beaten over the head by every wacko website, and I know there'll be a lot of, what the hell do you know? Go back to girls jumping on trampolines. This is not about what I know. This is about what scientists know. So I hope that for the next 2 minutes, put your political leanings aside, forget about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, forget the labels, and pay attention to the following message. Decide for yourself. The people you're about to see are scientists. They're Americans. They're not part of some imaginary conspiracy. They're just a smarter version of us. Watch this, and if at the end you disagree, while we're all underwater, I hope you'll be the last one who gets a snorkel.
Hi, I'm Aradhana Tripathi. I'm a paleoclimatologist and isotope geochemist.
Hi, I'm Alex Hall, and I'm a climate scientist.
I'm Jeremy Pell, and I'm a hydroclimatologist.
I'm Nina Karnofsky, and I'm a polar ecologist.
I'm Chuck Taylor, and I'm an environmental analytical chemist.
I'm John Dorsey. I'm a marine environmental scientist.
Over the past 40 years, thousands of scientists have studied climate change.
Definitely happening.
And it's caused by human beings.
That's you and me.
And the consequences could be extremely dire.
Catastrophic.
Apocalyptic.
And here's the thing. When we tell you all this, we're not with you.
We're not with you.
Definitely not with you.
Why would we with you?
Think about it.
If I wanted to screw with people, do you think I would have gone into climate science?
If we were with you, I'm sure we could do a lot better than anthropogenic climate change.
I'd probably tell you that a meteor was coming and then try to sell you a helmet.
We know about this stuff.
We have PhDs.
In science.
This is not a prank.
This is not a prank.
Once when I was younger, I locked one of my buddies in a porta potty, then pushed it over. Now that's a prank.
So just to sum up,
global warming, real.
It's real.
Man-made.
Caused by carbon pollution.
Temperatures soaring.
Oceans rising.
Ice melting.
For real.
We're not with you.
We're not with you.
We're not with you.
Believe us, if not for our generation, then for his.
You better not this up.
Paid for by people who know more than we do.
Thanks for watching. If you like that...
I don't know what the little kid said, but... But guys, I tell you, when it comes to climate scientists, hey, these guys aren't playing games, And I want to tell you, the next clip is even more fun because it's people that wrote in, that texted into Jimmy Kimmel to give their opinion on what they thought about the presentation. And guys, this is even funny.